How's it going, everyone? I'm here to share with you what Star Wars has been trying to teach you about emotions for years. Watching a lot of Star Wars lately. A little bit too much. But I was recently reading a lot of books about emotions lately. Going on this bit of an emotional journey, trying to figure out what are emotions, what do they do? What's the point of them? And in watching Star Wars, it clicked. It all made sense. Where we fail, where we prosper, and how we're supposed to handle things. Literally right there. I'm going to take us all the way back to the very beginning with Anakin. Now, we all know about Anakin Skywalker. He's the chosen one. He gets started as a little kid. That's the first time we see him in The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. And when we see him at this point, he's, keep in mind, slave. Best thing he's there for is to get beaten and to do some wacky alien dude's job. All the while his mom is the only one that's there for him. That's when we first come up on him, and he's there building various robots, designing all these different devices, as well as entering pod racing, and that is like his escape. That's what he does. That's where he gets his his passion. But he doesn't want to be there forever. And that's when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan show up there to help him out. Qui-Gon's like, this is the chosen one, we need to pick him up and take him out. And that's exactly what happens. Going through the first movie, at the very end, we all know Qui-Gon dies, and Obi-Wan has to take care of Anakin. There's one piece that I want to point out right here to kind of show Anakin's emotional maturity as, I think, an 8-year-old, 8 to 10-year-old at this point. He looks at his mom, and he says, "Mom, I'm going to come back. I'm going to free all of the slaves." That is inspiring. We look at that and we're all like, wow, that's such a strong move. He's he's so passionate. He's so driven. That's something we expect from a 20-year-old. But a 10-year-old, to have that vision, the fact that he has to, we have to already take that into account. So let's put that in the dot of emotional trauma. Number 1, Anakin's childhood as a slave, emotional trauma. Then we see him again in episode 2. At this point, he's been training as a Jedi. He, I think, is a Padawan at this point, has not become a knight, and is training under Obi-Wan, becoming the man that he wants to be. And what happens? He's developing a relationship with Padme. He's trying to get married. In fact, he does get married to her in the movie. And also he has these dreams. He has these dreams of his mom dying. And, well, 10-year-old Anakin promised his mom he would go back and free her, right? Free all of the slaves. And now he's getting dreams of his mom dying. And what does he do? He goes to the one person he can trust, and that's Obi-Wan. He talks to Obi-Wan, and what does Obi-Wan say? Hey, bro, relax. Forget about your feelings. Drop your attachments. Because at this point, the Jedi, let's look at the Jedi Code. Their first line of the Jedi Code is, there is no emotion, there is peace. And that is what they've all been living. Get rid of all your attachments. Get rid of all your emotions. Don't follow them, because if you do, you're going to fall to the dark side. That's where we're at. And that's where the fear was. Now, everyone thought that the Jedi were amazing, these great people. Everyone was like, we want to be like them, They were supposed to be these harbingers of good. But what's happened is they've disconnected themselves so far from their feelings and their emotions that they've actually lost sight of everything that's going on. Anakin's being taught, hey, suppress your emotions. Drop them. What happens? Anakin is like, I'm going to still go to Tatooine and figure out what's up with my mom. Turns out she got captured and got killed. And what does Anakin do? First time exploding, all that emotion comes out, and he kills a bunch of Tusken Raiders. Not a very good start for a Jedi. That's not a very Jedi thing to do. You got to notice the comparisons between today's world and what's happening here with Anakin. Anakin's being taught suppress your emotions. Anakin's being taught your emotions are bad. You shouldn't follow your emotions. You need to follow the Force. But what is the Force? The Force appears in your feelings. But he's being taught that his feelings are bad. And what happens? Episode 3 comes along. He has the same dreams that he did about his mom, but with Padme, the one woman he loves. And the Jedi say the same thing to him. Hey, you need to get rid of all your attachments, and you need to get rid of those emotions, because those are going to lead you to the dark side. And he tries that. But At the same time, the one escape that he has is his escape through Palpatine to the dark side, to try to fix everything that he had, because no one ever taught him the right way to handle things. And that's where we see the hero end up falling in episode 3 to become Darth Vader. And now, a lot of you are probably wondering, well, what does that have to do with us? Well, that's what a lot of kids are taught nowadays, at which the dark side is our escapes. It's work, it's like video games, it's drugs, alcohol, where people run into this darkness of trying to seek satisfaction through pleasure, because they never learned how to deal with the pain, with the emotions, with everything, the things that make them sad. They never learned. They thought sadness was bad, so I need to get rid of it. So the first thing they did was drink, and they found out that drinking gets rid of sadness, and they fall into that. But Luke taught us better. See, when we find Luke, he's like 20 years old at this point, and never taught anything about being a Jedi until he runs into Ben. Ben teaches him a little bit, but we notice in the movies he never teaches him to suppress his emotions. When we see Luke watch Ben die, he freaks out. He absolutely goes off. But he's never taught that that's wrong, like Anakin was. In the 5th movie, he runs into Yoda, and Yoda teaches him even more about the Force, about what the Force is. The Force is your friend. The Force is there to guide you. But he never teaches him, hey, suppress your emotions, which is interesting because in episode 3, he tells Anakin, hey, you need to get rid of all your attachments. You need to drop that stuff. That stuff is not good. But he doesn't tell Luke that. In fact, when Luke is like, hey, I want to go save my friends, Yoda doesn't tell him, hey, drop your friends, drop your attachments. He says, you're not ready to go face Darth Vader yet. You're not ready to go find your friends. That's a very significant difference between the two. And of course, we see what happens. Luke goes after Darth Vader and is like, hey, I need to save my friends, gets his arms cut off, doesn't save anybody. We saw that. You make mistakes. But no one batters Luke and tells him that he was bad for making those mistakes. In fact, he goes back to Yoda, says, now you're ready. He in fact tells him, you have to face Darth Vader. You must. Which is interesting, because when someone before tells you, hey, you need to drop your attachments, versus now you must face the thing that's scariest the most, you have to face your emotions, he teaches him 2 completely different lessons. He taught Anakin one thing and he taught Luke a new thing, because he saw what the failure with Anakin was. And the thing is Luke always knew how to handle his emotions. He never saw them as bad. Even in the final fight with Darth Vader, when he's going off, you see him actually fall to the dark side a little bit, because Darth Vader threatens that if Luke doesn't turn to the dark side, he'll turn Princess Leia over. So Luke gets mad. Luke gets angry, which is not very Jedi-like. And he goes off and he's like fighting Darth Vader. He ends up winning and he cuts off his hand and Darth Vader's on the ground about to die. And he's like, the Emperor walks over and is like, good, kill him. Take his spot by my side. And Luke does what we all have to do in the toughest moments. He looked at him, he looked at his lightsaber, he breathed, and he made a choice. And he says, no, I will not fall to the dark side. I am a Jedi like my father before me. You have failed, Your Highness. That's what he does. He doesn't fall. He goes, you know what? I have these feelings, but I have a choice. And that's the biggest issue that we have in today's society, is we think we don't have a choice because our feelings are wrong, that the only option we have is to not feel, which ultimately ends up with all of us blowing up. And that's kind of where I want to talk about where Luke has that breathing moment and how that applies to you, because this is all about practical steps, how you can walk away from this and be, better. So when Luke looks at his hand and he pauses and he breathes, he has to validate the emotion that he's feeling. Because if you don't validate your emotion, you can think of like a child. When a child's crying to you and you're freaking, and he's like freaking out, he's crying. If you tell the child, just stop crying, has that ever worked for anybody? Stop crying. Okay. Just stops? No, it never works. But when you validate, hey, you're feeling sad. When you look at yourself and you're able to say, you know what, I do feel sad and that's okay. I'm allowed to feel sad. It's like a, Like this pressure, this anxiety goes away. When you're angry, you're like, I'm allowed to be angry. What made me angry? Well, my dad just threatened to turn my sister to the dark side. That makes me pretty mad. Why? Well, I care about my sister. I want her to stay on the light side and be good. I don't want her to fall like you did, Dad. And I have a choice. I can kill Darth Vader in anger, and that would lead me right to where he was, or I can choose to do something different that he didn't do. And that's what we all have to do when we have these emotional moments. You ask yourself, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling that? You validate it. You say it's okay. That's fine. It's understandable that you feel that way. And then you weigh, what is the right thing to do? What is the light side choice to do? What's the dark side thing that I really want to do? And what's the light side thing that I know I need to do? And once you validate yourself, you pick the light side. And I know that's a lot easier said than done. And as you practice this over time of what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that? And what are my choices? And that I'm valid in what I'm feeling, it becomes a lot easier. And the books that I've been reading that really go on about this are Running on Empty, which talks about that emotional neglect we feel as children, i.e. Anakin when he was a kid. And then the next one is Calming the Emotional Storm, which has a lot of practical steps, especially about mindfulness exercises, about determining your emotions and what they are. One I would recommend is Self-Esteem. Self-esteem goes into that critic in your head and tells you what, who you are, what you need to feel, who you need to be. When in reality, none of that's true. Thank you guys for listening, and I know that this has been beneficial. So next time that you feel something, or you're feeling that emotional time, pick the light side. Share this with another Star Wars fan, because I know this is something that was a revelation for me, that I realized like Star Wars teaches me stuff. I know that'll be excellent for someone else too. So share it, and thank you guys for listening.